Arsenal, how do they get a win that'll take it to extra time or maybe get them through? What do they need to do? Can they?
Yeah, they can.
How?
Well, Partey's back. That's a bonus. They can push Mikel Merino a bit further up, where he's been brilliant for them in terms of, filling in for Kai Havertz, who, frankly, I don't think has been a big miss, to be fair, when you see what Merino has done. They've got to get Saka into the game more. They've got to get Odegaard in the game more. I thought he was on the fringes, which he quite often is in big games, to be fair, Odegaard. He pokes these passes a lot of times against the Southamptons and the Ipswiches and the West Hams, but I think he has to step up in the really big games. I thought Declan Rice did the other night, as per usual, tried to drive him forward, but they're going to have to defend really, really well. Can they outplay PSG? I think they tried to do that the other night. Never quite got there. So I don't think they're going to outplay João Neves and Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz. I think we saw that. So they have to be a bit cuter about it. I think it's going to be a tough one for them. The one thing I would say is Arsenal are a very good side, right? They're obviously not been good enough to win the Premier League. But if they wanted to kind of solace, and I know this game was at home and it wasn't in Paris, is what Aston Villa did in the last half an hour of the game against Paris at Villa Park, I think was a wake-up call to Luis Enrique, because really, let's be honest about it, the chances that Villa created and should have scored, PSG could easily have been out of this competition. And I know it's ifs, buts and maybes, but you had guys missing headers completely from 6 yards out, like Eric Konza. So there is a warning to PSG there that they can't get out of their shape, because when they did at Villa Park, they got torn apart. So if they lose their shape, this Arsenal side has got the ability to take them apart. But in terms of a football game, PSG, the transition from where they were in the games that you mentioned to how they've been in 2025 is utterly astounding. And I know they brought in Kvaratskhelia from Napoli, and he's a wonderful player. But it's all the other players in the team as well, how they're operating. Doué, Barcola when he comes on, Dembele's been magnificent. The two guys in midfield, you'd look at them and say, Fabian Ruiz apart, João Neves and Vitinha, you'll never play in the modern game. You can't play in the modern game. You're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not quick enough. But they're so clever and they pass the ball so well and they can put their foot in. They're absolutely brilliant midfielders in there. And when you add in the Spaniard as well, they're really, really strong. Now, the midfield, you could argue, is Arsenal's strongest position. So I think it's going to be a great game. Obviously, two teams that really won't take a back step. But from what I've seen from PSG since the turn of the year, I have to stick with them, getting to the final and probably beating Arsenal on the night in Paris.
If this is left to the football, PSG win it. If it's left to...
I'm very confident that we're going to do it.
How much are you personally looking forward to going back to Paris? I think it's your first time there as manager.
I can't wait.
You said you learned a lot when you were there about wanting to be a coach. Is that the case, and why?
Well, because I was so young, I had a lot of experienced players around me that they really look after me. The first one was the manager. He gave me the opportunity, Luis Fernandez, to have my first professional experience that I will be grateful forever. And then because I learned so much about experienced players like Heinze, Pochettino, Letici, Ronaldinho, Kocha, Anelka, so many players that were incredibly good.
I want to talk about some leaders in your team now. And a lot of people compare Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard. But for you as manager, is it nice to have the different styles of leadership in your team?
100%.
And why? What do they complement each other?
Because, for example, Martin is not the most vocal one, but if you want a role model that represents the club, the values of the club, the work ethic, the consistency, the right behaviors, habits, is immaculate. It doesn't matter. If you win, lose, draw, rains, is December, September. If he's been a father, it doesn't matter. He's always there, leading by example. Declan is another kind of character. He's very vocal, very loud. He has a massive presence, and he impacts the game in a different way. I think if you ask a fan about an opinion about me, about a player when we have lost a game, and we had a really bad game, if you ask him in the first 5 minutes, the answer can be anything.
Yeah.
If you ask him after half an hour, I don't know. You ask him after 3 hours having sit with his wife and have a good time, maybe the answer is different. 3 days later, different. 3 months later, probably completely different. So depends when you ask and how you want to achieve.
Your players have spoken a lot about visualization. Is that something that you yourself use as a tactic?
I do, because I think at the end, what it gives you confidence, joy, is to believe that you are capable of delivering something that you are very passionate to do. And the more clear you are, more confident, more prepared you are, more you're going to enjoy it.
So how do you use that? Is that something you talk to your players about?
Yeah, it is more something that we do more individually, because you need to understand which players are more open to do it, and then how you install slowly certain things that I think can be very powerful for the team.
Before a big game like next week, will you lead with emotion or with tactics?
I think we would have time to discuss all of it, depending on when and how you feel, when is the right moment to talk certain things and other things.
In the changing room before the game?
Normally there are 2 moments. One that is tactical in relation when we have the lineup and the final touches, what we want to do, and then emotional for sure.
Do you enjoy this part of the season?
I love it.
Why? Is it your favourite part?
Because I love winning and the silverware is very close.
Still having something to play for in May, is that pressure or is that progress?
I think that's joy. I mean, that's what we want to be when we start in May to prepare the next season, in June to start to prepare the pre-season. That's the reason why we do it.
And I get the sense from you and listening to so many of your players this week, you have no doubt that you can.
Arsenal with Bournemouth. Mikel Arteta on Bournemouth, PSG, Calafiri and Team News. After the humbling 1-0 defeat to PSG in the week, the focus remains understandably on European hopes, with a trip to Paris on Wednesday dominating the thoughts of fans and likely the team. But the league form can help build momentum, and Arteta will surely want to help revive that with just 4 games left. Team News will be on the agenda as he has to manage squad rotation, as Thomas Partey can play again after being suspended in midweek. Ricardo Calafiri, Jorginho and Kai Havertz are all fighting to return before the end of the season, with perhaps an update on the trio to come. UEFA have paid Miles Lewis Skelly the ultimate compliment following Arsenal's 1-0 defeat to Paris Saint-Germain. The 18-year-old defender impressed once again as the Gunners suffered defeat in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final. Lewis Skelly, who made his European debut against Luis Enrique's side in the league phase, has now featured 9 times in the competition, recording 2 assists. Playing a key role in Mikel Arteta's side, the Hale End graduate has helped Arsenal reach the last 4. Despite his best efforts, Lewis Skelly couldn't drag the North Londoners to victory on Tuesday night. That said, his eye-catching display didn't go under the radar, with UEFA naming him in an All-Star Team of the Week. Paris Saint-Germain have released an injury update on Ousmane Dembélé ahead of next Wednesday's Champions League semi-final second-leg clash against Arsenal. PSG confirmed on Friday that star forward Dembélé has suffered a hamstring injury, which puts his participation in doubt against Mikel Arteta's men. Dembélé scored the only goal of the game against Arsenal in the first leg on Tuesday evening and has been a key player for the French club with 33 goals across all competitions this season. The League One champions have also confirmed that centre-back Presnel Kimpembe will be out of action for several weeks after suffering a foot injury, which will rule him out of the Arsenal game when the tie is finally poised. It can sometimes be difficult to have tough conversations about the drawbacks from the first leg, and in the case of Arsenal, it could be that everything that I write can be thrown out in just over a week. I hope it is. Despite that, we are here to have several uncomfortable conversations again about this Arsenal side in the short and long term, which contributed to PSG stealing a 1-goal lead in the semi-final. There was so much build-up to this match, with a direct message even from Mikel Arteta to the supporters. However, after PSG scored, the energy and noise that was delivered were suddenly extinguished. One of the brief frustrations was that the pre-match tifo which had been spoken about was, to be blunt, poor. While a simplistic design, the cannon did not fit on the sheet that was held aloft and couldn't be fully held aloft by the cables. Arsenal's defeat to Paris Saint-Germain in the first leg of the semi-final of the UEFA Champions League was a serious blow to their hopes of reaching the final. Mikel Arteta has been punching above his station for most of the campaign, considering the absences he's had to deal with. The fact the Gunners are even second and in their second semi-final of the season is quite mad. Yet, with the second leg coming with only a 1-goal deficit, it remains all to play for and changes can be made. Arteta needs to change things going into this match in order to get the best from his side again, and put the French team under considerably more threat than they felt in the Emirates. While chances were created, they were not taken, and there are ways this can be altered.